Hello students. Uh, Today we are going to see the method of resolution of forces. Now this is at the heart of the heart of statics, and often students get confused in resolution of forces. I would like to explain in this short video the clear steps which you should remember while resolving the forces in x or y direction. Now, first point you should always remember is that we are going to consider only the angle which the force makes with x axis, and in that the smaller angle, right? For example, look at this. Suppose this is x axis, this is x negative, positive, etc., and let's say the force is like this, and the force is this force, say F, is making an angle of say 20 degrees, and obviously the other angle which it makes with the x-axis is 160 degrees. So one is small angle, another is bigger angle. We are always going to consider smaller angle, and this is what you would always remember. Okay, so first step is remember that we are going to consider the smaller angle which force is going to make with x-axis, right? We are not going to consider the angle which the force makes with y-axis. We will, if you are given the angle which the force makes with y-axis, we will find out first what is the angle it makes with x-axis, and the smaller of those angles, right, we are going to consider. So we are going to consider not 160 here, but we are going to consider 20, for example. Okay, now with this first rule, now let me explain the method. Okay, so this is the first step I told you about the angle. Now let's start resolving the forces F1, F2, F3 and F4 along x and y direction. Okay, so let's start first with let's say F. I think I should choose another color. Okay, let's say we want to resolve the force F1 in x direction, right? So F1 in x direction, the first step, as I said, you will consider the smaller angle. 40 newtons is making an angle of 25 degrees with x-axis, but also remember it is also making another angle which is this angle, right, which will be 155 degrees with the x-axis. But we are not going to consider 155, but we are going to consider of the two angles smaller one, which is 25. So forget about 155. So we'll remove this 155. Fine. Now if we want to find out F1x, that means resolution of F1 along x-axis, then you will write the magnitude 40 newtons, right, into cos of the smaller angle which it makes with x-axis. Okay, so it is, we are going to say it is cos 25. Fine. And then you are going to apply the sine. Now look at F1. F1 is moving, it is pointing towards the origin. That means when you resolve it, let's say we resolve it, this is going to be, sorry, if we want to resolve it, so this is the, so you'll resolve it like this. So your the direction will be towards right, sorry, the direction of the after resolved is towards left, right? So towards left is negative, that means it is towards negative x-axis. So it is minus 40, it is minus minus 40 cos 25. That is F1x. Now what about F1y? That means the component of the force F1 when it is resolved along y-axis. Now again, we are not going to consider, please follow these steps clearly. We are going to always consider the angle which the force makes with x-axis, and in that the smaller angle which is 25. So now you are going to just say it is going to be sine of, because when you resolve it along y, consider sine. So again we'll write 40 is the magnitude, sine 25, and then we'll be putting the sine of this this component of the force depending upon the direction. Now look at this. F1, when you resolve along y-axis, right? You're resolving. That means this will be pointing towards downward because F1 is towards the origin. So after resolution, it will be pointing downward. That means the sign will be negative. Okay. Come to F2 now, right? Force F2. Now you are given its angle with x-axis, and that is 40 degrees. So what is the angle it makes? Another angle it is making with x-axis, 180 minus 40, obviously, right? So this angle is going to be, this angle is 140. But we are not going to consider that. We are going to consider only the smaller angle which it makes with the x-axis. So I'll remove that. Okay. So now let's say F2x. Resolution of F2 along x. Now again we'll write the magnitude 50, then cos of the smaller angle. So it is cos 40. And then you will apply the sine. Look at the direction. The F2 is away from the origin. When you resolve it along x, so this is going to be like this. So this is towards left. So it is minus sign. Okay. Right. Now what about F2y? F2y, that means resolution of F2 along y-axis. Again, now all that we are going to do is consider, we are going to always stick to the smaller angle with which it makes with the x-axis. And now we will take sine of that. Whenever you resolve along y, consider sine of that. So it is going to be 50 sine 40. And now look at the, now you have to assign the sine to this force. So look at this. F2 when you resolve along the y-axis, this is upward, right? So this is going to be plus. Come to F3, right? F3x. F3x is 80 newtons. So now look at this. The angle which you are given is with y-axis. F3 making angle with y-axis. But now you find out the angle it makes with x-axis first, right? So you'll find out that angle, and that angle is 90 minus 60, which is 30 degrees, right? Which is 30 degrees. So you are now forgetting 60 degrees. You are not going to consider 60 at all, right? Okay. Now F3 resolved in along x-axis. So it is going to be 80, because whenever it is resolution along x-axis, we'll always say that this is cos of that. So 80 cos 30. Okay. And then what is the sign? Because when you resolve it, it's going to be towards right. So this is plus. Right. Now what about F3y? Now you will write sine 30. So it is going to be 80 sine 30. And when you are resolving it, when you are resolving it along y-axis, it is going to be downward, right? So this is going to be minus 80 sine 30. Now let's look at F4. F4 now you are going to resolve. Now you are given F4, you are given the angle with y-axis, but we want angle with it makes with the x-axis and smaller of that angle. Okay. So what is the angle it is making with x-axis? This is the angle. So this is 75, 90 minus 15. And it is also making another angle. Please note, this angle with x-axis is 105, right? But we are not going to consider that. We are going to consider the smaller angle. So we'll write F4x as, what is the magnitude? It is 70 cos of 75. And please note, when you resolve it like this, it's going to be towards left. It's towards left, right? So it is going to be, it will be minus. Then F4y is, again, you are going to consider smaller of the angle which the force makes with x-axis, and smaller, it makes smaller of the angle which is 75. So you'll write 70, sine of that angle which is 75. And please note, when you resolve it along, when you're resolving like this, it's downward, so this is minus. Okay, so the steps is, first, consider only the angle which the force makes with x-axis, and in that you should consider the smaller angle. Cos of that angle will be part of the component with x-axis along x-axis, and sine of that angle will be the component of that will be the part of that component along y-axis, right? Then you will multiply that cos and sine with the magnitude, and the next step you decide the sign depending upon direction of force. This is so simple, but you should remember this these steps. Never consider angle with y-axis. That will be confusing, right? So please remember these steps, and in next video I'm going to explain what if the force is acting on an inclined plane, right? You are considering x-axis on along inclined surface, etc. So remember these steps very clearly, so that you don't make any mistake. Thank you.